put myself through hell to secure your future. Who do you think you are?
Assassination Classroom has to be one of the most tragic, most emotional animes I have ever seen, and I say this with a grain of salt, as a quick Google search says that it's a comedy, not a tragedy, and as most people know, a comedy is usually not a tragedy, and on the outside I can agree with Google, it does appear as a comedy, with maybe a few tragic scenes. However, within a deeper inspection, without a doubt, it's a tragedy. The beginning is tragic, the middle is tragic, and even the end is tragic. Sure, the opening feels joyful and doesn't look dark, but if you truly examine the show, you will be emotional. The show makes my own heart ache. I just can't help but feel emotional towards all the characters. However, before I continue, please watch the show, because I will be giving massive spoilers in today's video. Trust me, you will love it. It's truly a ride of emotions. Koro-Sensei. One might say he is the only piece of tragedy in the show. With his tragic past, I will admit he's the most obvious example. He was a perfect teacher and just shows everyone what it means to be human. The struggle, the highs, the lows, but that's worth it in the end. Koro-Sensei was a tragedy in the show, but it wasn't just him. It was the entire cast. But before we continue, what is a tragedy and what is a comedy? I'm using these terminologies that you, the viewer, might not be aware of. You see, these terminologies originated in Greece for plays usually. They were used as play genres. But they can also be used for movie genres in today's age. The term comedy, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, which in my opinion is one of the more reliable dictionaries, says a drama of light and amusing characters with typically a happy ending. It can also be reworded to the genre of dramatic literature, dealing with the comic or with the serious of light or satirical manner. Based on these definitions, I wouldn't consider Assassination Classroom truly a comedy. I mean, the characters are amusing, but I wouldn't consider the ending truly a happy one. Sure, the characters are quote-unquote happy at the end, but they are still upset about Koro-Sensei's death, and it still paints a huge, unhappy image at the end. I mean, at the end, Nagisa becomes a teacher and his students aren't the best. Sure, this scene made me smile and laugh and just feel happy on the inside. But that one scene wasn't the end of the anime. I would slap Koro-Sensei's death as part of the end. I mean, the whole title, the show, Assassination Classroom, points to that one event happening and knowing it's going to happen. That is the end of the show. It points to that Koro-Sensei will die. Another definition for comedy is humorous entertainment. And to this I say yes, but actually no. I mean, sure, the show has quite a few funny scenes in it, but it also has serious scenes and sad scenes. And comedies don't usually have those types of scenes. Now, tragedies, on the other hand, don't usually have funny scenes. But before we jump to conclusions, let's define tragedy. Tragedy can mean many things, such as a disastrous event, calamity, or misfortune. This isn't the term for the genre of tragedy though, but it's still important. I'll bring it up in a minute, so just stay focused, please. The second definition is a series drama typically describing a conflict between a protagonist and a superior force, such as destiny, and having sorrowful or disastrous conclusion that elicits pity or terror. This definition is the definition for the genre of tragedy. However, its wording can be a little hard to understand. A rewording of it would be dealing with or treated in tragedy. This definition pulls us to the first definition, actually. When it says treated in tragedy, that can be reworded to treating in misfortune, because tragedy means a disastrous event, calamity, or misfortune. Basically, if you're confused, the definition of the genre of tragedy uses the first definition in it, and just basically means dealing with or treated in misfortune. There you go. Remember, I did say stay focused. And it's really important that you do when you're using terminologies, because a lot of times when there are two definitions to a word, they are connected in some way, shape, or form. You see, the genre of tragedy means misfortune. So, is Assassination Classroom a comedy? Or is it a tragedy? My answer to this is more of a hybrid of the two, it being a tragedy and a comedy, a tragedy. Script, I need to work on that. That was stupid. You caught me saying at the beginning of the video that the show begins tragically, that the show is a tragedy at the beginning. And your questions might be, how on earth is this possible? The show seems very positive, at the start at least. Well, the answer to this is every character in the show has some type of tragic past, from having divorced parents, with your mom being a psychopath, beating you up, wishing that you were a girl, manipulating you into wearing a dress, and growing out your hair, at the same time having to deal with being in the E class. If you ignore my warning at the beginning, you don't know what the E class is. It's the lowest class at the school. It's the class that everyone treats the worst. The class that's considered full of failures. The class that's considered to have no future. The class that everyone bullies. And Nagisa, the character that has to go through all this, isn't the only one with this tragic past, with this tragic current life. This misfortune goes to the whole class. You see, Kayano also has a tragic past. Her sister died, and she believes it to be the wrong person. She puts herself in extreme pain to try and just be able to counter him. And while having to act like this fake person, if you don't know, acting like you're not yourself, acting like a whole nother person, it hurts you on the inside. It's probably traumatizing her on the inside. She is a junior high girl, and her sister died. And to fathom the amount of pain she's going through, the other kid that's in junior high, Itona, when he goes through this pain, he can't even counter it. He has to go through like this therapy thing. And that's not even it. Karma, which is in my opinion one of my favorite characters in the show. He struggles from only seeing his parents for a very short time, to be betrayed by his sensei, not Koro-Sensei, being able to only get out of situations using his fists, and losing his only friend because he was scared of him. Karma's development is definitely interesting. And to explain the betraying from the sensei, if you guys haven't seen it, basically the sensei okie-dokayed him beating up other people if they were in the wrong, but then he beats up somebody from the A class and they were in the wrong. But then the sensei says you can't do that and puts him in the E class. That's basically the betrayal. And you think I'm done, but I'm literally not. Everyone in the class struggles with some type of tragic past or in some type of tragic situation right now. And it's not just the E class, it's the big five, the principal. They're all in true tragedy. And I really wish I could just cover all the characters. That would be a 10-hour video. So I'm only going to be covering the ones that speak out to me. Asano, the leader of the Big Five, has a father who only cares about how well his son does, not his son himself. Not only that, Asano doesn't have much of a character, and is only about grades, only about competition, only about beating the E class. He doesn't know who he is, with this inward struggle of not being himself, and only what his father wants of him. Following Asano, we have Asano's father, the principal, which is kind of obviously tragic. I mean, we get an entire episode dedicated to him, and why he is the way he is. We get a whole episode just dedicated to the tragedy of Asano's father. I mean, we learn that he's a teacher, and that one of his students committed suicide, and we learn a lot more. However, I won't spoil anything, because you either know or you cheated and you're watching this video without watching the anime. And if that's the case, then please go watch the anime. You're losing on a big chunk of what makes Assassination Classroom Assassination Classroom. So please, go watch it. You see, there are two more characters I'd like to deliberately bring up in today's video. Itona, Harabe, and Ritsu. Itona Harabe was in a desperate situation, and the help he received wasn't the help he needed. It was a false hope, a tragic one at that. But again, I want you, the viewer, to discover this on your own. You either know it, or again, you cheated and you haven't seen the show. The other character I'd like to discuss is Ritsu. Ritsu doesn't have a tragic past, but that's because Ritsu didn't exist. You see, Ritsu has a tragic soul. She's an AI, and she has to fight between her existence and who she is. She has to discover how to get along with her fellow classmates. I'd like to move on to the middle. I said that the middle was tragic too. The tragedy of the middle, what is it? Well, I feel like it's the act of trying to kill Koro-Sensei. And you might be like, Nani? But just give me a second. They have to fight between trying to kill him or not. Everything was revealed, that this teacher isn't some evil being trying to destroy Earth. They were given, from Koro-Sensei, more than hope. They were given a life, a purpose, a chance, someone who loves them, someone who cares for them. Koro-Sensei helped these children go through their problems. He helped Nagisa with his mother. He helped Ritsu realize who she is. He helped Atona in more ways than you can count. He made all these characters try in school and beat the Big Five with exam grades. Yet, they have to decide, should we kill this guy who got us out of our tragic situations? You see, my point in today's video isn't to say Assassination Classroom is a tragedy and not a comedy, because in some respects, they can be both. My point is to show you the true tragedy inside this show, and I'm about to talk about the biggest tragedy, Koro-Sensei. You see, anybody blindly watching this show can see the tragedy behind his death, and say that they wish it didn't happen. However, in a respectful way, his death needed to happen. It gave the show way more value. I don't mean this in a negative way, because the show tricks you very well to make you think that Koro-Sensei might live. But if he never died, I don't think I would remember the show as well as I do, or even like it to the degree I do. His death was a beautiful finale to the show, even if it made me shed tears and unable to watch the final episode for a month out of pure sadness. So why don't we talk about why Koro-Sensei's death is so tragic? Koro-Sensei was the original Grim Reaper, the original strongest assassin, with no friends, no one to love. Until one day on a mission, he gets a friend, a student, to teach his tricks to. He performs many assassinations with that student, until one day, this student betrays him, the only thing Koro-Sensei ever loved. Sold him out to a laboratory. In the laboratory, he gets turned into some monster octopus creature and meets a woman who he quote-unquote loves. After he finds out that he only has a short time to live, the woman he loves dies in front of his eyes, with one wish for him to become a teacher of Class 3E. You see, before she wished this, right when he found out he was gonna die, his plan was to destroy the entire world with him, to kill everyone around him. But with his quote-unquote love dying in front of his eyes, he became the perfect teacher, literally appearing 30 times, even if it made him tired, so that he could one-on-one with all of his students. His final wish was to literally give his students one last attendance.
赤羽カルマくん。はい。磯貝優馬くん。はい。
That's an example of how good of a teacher he was. And although Koro-Sensei's death made millions cry all at once, tears of sadness, tears that made time stop for reflection, I can say without a doubt, Koro-Sensei's tragic life had a massive impact on all his students, and even the principal of the school. He gave those students the hope they needed, and gave them a future. I don't know if you guys know what it means when you have no hope, when you look and you can't see a future for yourself. You see, he gave them the best thing that they needed. He gave them love. But not only that, he even fixed the children's past. So I can definitely say, without a doubt, that this is the tragedy of Assassination Classroom.